Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. I'm Luigi Van 64D. Now then, this is a very serious trial. Adrian did it? That's what it looks like. Dude, no way! That woman couldn't do anything like that. In court today, there will be a mountain of evidence that will implicate you. A mountain of evidence? I'm certain there's someone out there trying very hard to pin this whole thing on you. Please, Mr. Lawyer. Dude, like I said yesterday, I'm refreshing like a spring breeze, alright? I can't let any sort of scandal ruin that. I understand. Well, it's almost time. But Mia. You must get a complete acquittal today. I know. I can't focus on Maya's situation right now. Or Pearl's, either. No matter what, I have to focus on winning this case by the end of today. Indeed. Well, let's get going. It's him! This is Wright.
Good morning. This is it, Mr. Attorney. The day of the trial.
Maya, she's unharmed, right?
Well, when I checked on her earlier this morning, she seemed a bit, how shall we say, tired. Don't worry, people don't die that easily. Besides, what you really should be concentrating on is winning today's trial. For myself, you must win today's trial. Which is why I sent you a little present this morning.
Present? What in the world will you give me?
You'll figure it out once the trial opens, even if you don't like my gift. I expect you to graciously accept it, and win the day's contest, if you please.
Wait! The kidnapper sent me a present? Mr. Lawyer Dude? Who was that? No one. It has nothing to do with you, so forget you heard anything. Dude, did your nose just get longer? I'm not lying. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, let's get going. Court is now in session for the trial of Matt Enguarde. Are the prosecution and defense ready? The defense is ready, Your Honor. I say, Mr. Wright, what happened to Miss Von Karma? I don't know, Your Honor. Why are you getting mad at me? Your Honor. Please be quiet, bailiff. Court is in session. If you must tell me something, please keep it brief. Now then, what is it? Prosecutor Von Karma has... This morning, Miss Von Karma has been shot by an unknown gunman. What? Shot? Somehow, I think this is the present that man was talking about. His present? Miss Von Karma is one of the top prosecutors in the country at the moment. If she disappeared, this would be to your advantage. This is totally insane! Miss Von Karma, is she alright? I don't have the answer! She's alive and in stable condition. That's good. Whew. You're... I thought he'd show up. Your Honor, due to the circumstances, Miss Francesca Von Karma cannot appear in court today. I, Miles Edgeworth, will be taking her place. The prosecution is ready. Naturally. Oh boy. Miss Von Karma was shot in her right shoulder and is currently undergoing surgery. Luckily, I have looked into this case over and am familiar with the details. The prosecution seeks to prove the guilt of Mr. Matt Enguarde. The court acknowledges the prosecution. Right. I finally found the answer I was struggling for a long journey this past year. By the time this case comes to an end, you too will know the answer. Now then, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. Please bring Detective Gumshoe to the witness stand. Witness, your name and occupation. My name's Dick Gumshoe, sir. I'm a detective down at the precinct. For now. For now? After this trial's over, I'm supposed to turn in my badge, sir. Detective Gumshoe? The prosecution has no need for a depressed witness. Lift your head up and face forward like a proud officer, Detective Dick Gumshoe. Yes, sir! Now, let's have your testimony. If we want to explore the various facets of this case, we must start with that. Get ready, Phoenix. This is going to be one very rough fight. Yeah, it would have to be with Edgeworth as my opponent. The answer he was struggling for. Interesting. Show me this answer you finally found, Edgeworth. Here's the facts of this case. This murder happened after the Hero of Heroes Award ceremony, sir. The victim, Juan Corda, was found dead in his hotel room. After looking into the cause of death, we believe he was definitely murdered, sir. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. However, we later found that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. After the award ceremony ended, the victim was alone in his room. Yes, sir. Both the victim and defendant went alone to the room, sir. I see. Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Alright, Edgeworth. Let's see what that answer is. This murder happened after the Hero of Heroes Award ceremony, sir. Would you please give us a brief timeline of what happened after the ceremony? Okay, pal. The ceremony started at 6 p.m. It ended around 8 p.m., and then there was a short break. A special post-ceremony show was supposed to start in the lobby 30 minutes later. And that's when the victim's body was found, correct? Which is to say, the murder occurred during that 30-minute break period. Please continue with your testimony, detective. The victim, Juan Corda, was found dead in his hotel room. The person who discovered the victim's body was Adrian Andrews, correct? Yeah. Who is this Adrian Andrews you're talking about? She's the defendant, Matt Enguarde's manager. She's a very pretty lady, sir. So she's a pretty lady. I wonder if she will grace us with her presence. When the post-ceremony show was about to start, she went to get Mr. Enguarde. Judge, what were you talking about again? After visiting his room, she next went to the victim's room to get him for the show, sir. I see. And that was when she found the victim's body. After looking into the cause of death, we believe he was definitely murdered, sir. The cause of death. Wasn't that because Mr. Corda was stabbed in the chest? Only a careless amateur would believe something so brainless as that, pal. Take a hard look at the crime photo. Now, a real person's attention will be drawn here to this bandana. Banana. His bandana, sir. That's a thing wrapped tightly around his neck, sir. Ah, yes, I see. His banana-scented bandana. Then... Judge. Then what about the knife? It seems to have been stuck in the victim's chest on purpose after his death. We have a crafty murderer on our hands here. Huh. Thanks for the autopsy report. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. And why did you think that? Because it was empty, pal. The Jammin' Ninja doesn't go anywhere without his bright red guitar. We couldn't find it anywhere on the scene of the crime. Oh, then how about this theory? A fan really wanted the guitar and did the crime to get it. How's that? We thought of that too, but... But? The only fingerprints on the guitar case were the victim's. Only the victim, huh? I see. Ah, so much for my theory then. Huh. Only Juan's fingerprints were on there. However, we later found out that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. Really? What convinced you that it had nothing to do with the case? The guitar wasn't at the Gatewater Hotel that night. Well then, where was it? The bright red guitar was eventually found in the TV studio. The victim, Juan Corda, had apparently only taken the case with him, sir. So you mean he forgot to put the guitar inside the case? Yes, sir. Even when he was on stage for the ceremony, he didn't have his guitar. So that guitar case was empty even before he got to the hotel. Yeah, that's right. So it really had nothing to do with the case after all. I believe that is enough. First, the victim was choked to death with his bandana. Then, after the victim was dead, the killer deliberately stabbed him with a knife. Which brings me to my next point. Why then did the police arrest Matt Enguarde? Because there was reason enough to suspect him. Here it comes. Looks like Edgeworth's back in full swing. Very well. Detective Gumshoe, please testify about this matter. Yes, sir! Matt Enguarde and Juan Corda were huge rivals with each other. They each thought the other guy was in his way. That's motive enough in my book. As for evidence, there's the Jammin' Ninja's button. It was ripped off the ninja costume and was found in Mr. Enguarde's hakama. The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. The defendant brought the knife for his crime, which makes this a premeditated murder. So the defendant's fingerprints were found on the knife used in the stabbing. It was sort of sticky on the handle, so the fingerprints came out pretty clearly, sir. Well, at least we finally have the knife. And there's this button. That was found in the defendant's clothes, was it? And this button also covered in blood? Yes, and we know that the blood on it is the victim's blood, sir. What? There's so much evidence. All of this points very clearly to the defendant, doesn't it? Yes, it most certainly does, Your Honor. Ready to give in yet, Wright? Huh, I'll find the hole in your argument somehow. You can press as hard as you'd like. Just hurry up with your usual pointless questions. They're not pointless. You're pointless. I mean, what? Matt Enguarde and Juan Corda were huge rivals with each other. But in terms of popularity, Matt Enguarde won, did he not? Yeah. But do you know what's ironic, Belle? Juan Corda was always one step behind Matt Enguarde and Mr. Enguarde and everything. This year it seems like he'd finally caught up, ready for the big final showdown. But Mr. Corda lost the Grand Prix in the end. That's too bad. Must have been pretty downhearted after losing. They each thought the other guy was in his way, and that's motive enough in my book. Wait just 1 second here. Mr. Enguarde was beating Mr. Corda in the popularity polls. Well, yeah, I guess, but... Which means that in the defendant's eyes, the victim was not a rival at all. Which means he had no motive to kill at all. Yes, I quite agree. Well, detective? It's not, well, I guess if you put it that way, then yeah, the defendant would have had no motive. Detective, I'm beginning to see why you were fired. What? No, not you too, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. I look forward to your pension negotiations. No! Now, detective, let's continue with the testimony. Oh, my poor pension, too. Detective, if you value your money, I suggest you proceed. Yes, sir. We can talk about my pension later, sir. What about what I was saying? Hello? Anyone? As for evidence, there's the Jammin' Ninja's button. Do you have any proof that the button belonged to the victim? Huh? I don't get you, pal. Oh, let me put it this way. I'm asking you if you have any evidence to back up your claim that this button was ripped off the Jammin' Ninja's costume. Can't you just tell just by looking at it? And the victim's blood is on it. Anyone could have smeared the blood on that afterward. Mr. Edgeworth, help me, sir. Alright, I knew it'd be this piece of evidence. Now to reel this one in. Fred, Huh? The button was attached to the costume by thread, obviously. And the thread snapped when the button was torn off. And to match the ends of the thread of the costume with the thread of the button, it's a perfect match. Yeah, that's it! The perfect match, pal! That's Edgeworth for you. Never misses a beat. It was ripped off the ninja costume and was found in Mr. Enguarde's Hakama. When was this button found? Pretty soon after the body was found, we rounded up everyone who knew Mr. Gorda. And then we did a search on them all. That's when we found the button. So this was almost immediately after the murder. The police didn't have the free time to lollygag and play tricks, unlike some people. Hey, what is he trying to say about me here? The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. How were the fingerprints arranged on the knife? Huh? What do you mean, pal? By examining the fingerprints, you can determine how the defendant held the knife. For example, did he hold it normally or overhand? Oh, is that what you meant? Well, we didn't actually think of that. I can't believe the bumbling of this department. Hopeless. Were you paying attention to the testimony, Wright? The defendant's fingerprints were all over the knife. There's no way to determine how the knife was held at the moment of the murder. So is the defendant the owner of this knife, then? The defendant bought the knife for the crime, which makes this a premeditated murder. Hold it! There's no way this was a premeditated murder, even if he bought the knife. Sorry, pal. This isn't just some pocket knife. It's not really useful for anything, and you can't just walk around with it either. Well, this is not good. If the prosecution can prove that it was a premeditated murder, we're done for. Phoenix? Yes? There's something very interesting about what the detective said just now. Think carefully, before it's too late. A button covered in the victim's blood, and a knife with Enguarde's fingerprints. Be grateful. If the judge were more rash, he would have already pounded his gavel in closing. We're still in a world of trouble. Well, before any battle, you must find your enemy's weakness. So let's find the weakness in this testimony, no matter how small it may be, okay, Phoenix? Okay, I'm pretty sure there was something... Bought the knife. Now let's look at this knife one more time. Has Gatewater engraved on it. Objection! Wait a second. What? So the basis of your argument is that it was a premeditated murder. That this was a premeditated murder is simply that my client bought a knife beforehand? That's right, pal. Defendant did not buy this knife. Huh? Take a good look at this handle of this knife, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It has a Gatewater seal set into the handle. Gatewater? I think I've heard that name somewhere before. That's the name of the hotel. The Gatewater Hotel. Uh-oh. The murder knife was actually property of the hotel, which means that this murder was not premeditated. Yes, that is very true. This is a very big... What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sorry, but the defense is simply too careless. What? I think whether the crime was premeditated or not has already been determined. How so? I admit, this knife is hotel property. There is no one currently in the police force that is dumb enough not to realize this. But I didn't know... Oh. The question is... Where did this knife come from? Well, why? That's obvious. It came from the victim, Mr. Corder's room. Sorry, Your Honor, but that is incorrect. The victim ate the last meal before he was murdered. And with that being the case, I would like to draw the court's attention to what is on top of the table. There's a knife and a fork on the table. Then, where in the world did this knife come from? If it pleases the court, I would like for us to recall the room of the defendant, Mr. Matt Enguarde. Especially what was on the top of his table. There is something missing. Perhaps it is a single knife? We investigated the leftover dishes of fingerprints, and while we were investigating, we came to the conclusion that Mr. Matt Enguarde's knife was missing. Mr. Enguarde had gone through the victim's room with the knife he had used during dinner. Why would he carry a knife onto his visit? To kill, of course. And with that, I believe the prosecution has proven that this was a premeditated murder. Oh. Amazing, Mr. Edgeworth. Absolutely brilliant. A brilliantly clear deduction. It seems like Edgeworth had this plan from the very beginning. This must be one of those traps. I just walked headlong into it. A murder weapon with fingerprints, and a button with the victim's costume. There is quite a sizable amount of evidence here. I can safely say that any further deliberation is the waste of your honest time. Although, I wouldn't mind if the defense were to present evidence not yet shown to the court. Evidence not yet shown? He means evidence that the court hasn't seen yet. In other words, new evidence. What does the defense have to say about this, Mr. Wright? Well, Phoenix, the judge is favoring the prosecution right now. If we answer there's something wrong here, the gavel of his will be ringing out of the sound of our defeat. Mr. Wright, do you have something important or necessary to present to this court? Yes, I do, I think. I have to say yes, I do, or else I lose. There's one piece of evidence that catches my attention. Something that this court is yet to see. Mr. Wright, I will say this one more time. I do not feel this trial needs to continue at all. However, I am giving you one chance, and only one. What the judge is saying, right, is don't try pulling one of your usual bluffs here. If I mess this up, it's curtains for all of us. Ah! That's all of my help! You may now present one, and only one, piece of evidence. Now then, what is this important evidence that you must show to the court? Take this! This is a wine glass, is it not? Please look at the photo of the crime scene one more time. This scene is a mess because of the victim's struggle against his assailant. The vase was broken, his makeup all over the floor. They're all things that were on one point, sitting on top of the dresser. Well, yes, I see your point. However, this glass that is sitting on top of the dresser is mysteriously untouched. The only thing that had not fallen over, along with everything else, is this wine glass. This piece of evidence is more than strange enough to warrant further consideration. Well, what do you all have to say? Well, yes, it is a little peculiar. Yes, isn't it? I thought it was. You can stop looking at me with those puppy dog eyes of yours now. Mr. Edgeworth? What is it, Your Honor? Your opinion. You don't need my opinion. Because there is no special meaning to that glass. What? It's safe to say that the glass was set there after the crime took place. By the person who discovered the body, Adrian Andrews, for example. She could have easily been so shocked that she set the glass down without thinking. It does sound very plausible, Mr. Wright. Could Miss Adrian really have set that glass down without thinking? Wait a second. No. How could you set the glass down with that body? There's no way. If I appear weak here, the trial's over. I could look for my proof later. For now, I should trust my instinct and point with certainty. They just might fall for it, if you're thought-provoking enough. The defense would like to challenge the prosecution's theory. We would like to see something that proves it was Miss Adrian Andrews who set the cup on the table. You've turned the situation on its head yet again, as usual. Mr. Edgeworth, do you have any proof to back up your claim? There's no way he has any. He's just bluffing. Unlike Mr. Wright, I never say anything unless I have the evidence to support it. What? You're not thinking hard enough today, right? Did you think this wine glass escaped my notice? Then... Of course it had been thoroughly inspected. For fingerprints. Fingerprints? There were only one set of fingerprints left on this wine glass. Only one? Whose were they? They were not the victims nor the defendants. Rather, they were of one Adrian Andrews. What? They were hers? That is why I said that the person who discovered the body had left it there. Are we done here, Mr. Wright? I can't believe I fell into another trap! Miss Andrews was probably holding the glass when she went to see Mr. Corda. But upon seeing his dead body, she was stunned and set the glass down on the dresser. What you just said makes a lot of sense. Now do you see, Wright? You can't change any part of my scenario, as it explains everything all too well. I thought long and hard the past year about what it means to be a prosecutor. And from here on out, I will show you the answer I have come to discover. Wait a second, Mr. Edgeworth. I think the prosecution has provided enough evidence for me to enter my verdict. Unfortunately, I cannot allow you to pass judgment yet. The prosecution has yet another witness we would like the court to hear from. Another witness? Yes. Bailiff, please bring in the next witness. What in the world is Mr. Edgeworth thinking?